Why can't he see this for what it is, which is a very real thing, not a hoax, and with a lot of people potentially involved in something, none of whom have been held accountable?
Well, the hoax is Democrats and others who have gone on television and either implied or worse that he had something to do with it. There's not a shred of evidence that he had anything to do with it, but that's what they want people to believe. That's the narrative that they are trying to get out there. That's the hoax. He's never said what happened to them is a hoax. In fact, there seems to be some shards of evidence in here that Trump may have been one of the people that turned in Jeffrey Epstein, which is why Epstein, according to some of the documents, apparently hated Donald Trump.
This clip shows Republican commentator Scott Jennings correcting CNN host Abby Phillip. She suggests that Donald Trump brushed off Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, but Jennings explains that Trump was only calling the accusation made about him a hoax. He says the media is focusing on the wrong issue. The narrator, Nurkish from Nurk News, claims that some media figures are bringing back old Epstein-related stories to make people look guilty by association. He argues that these stories often come up after Democrats lose elections. The segment also mentions Ana Navarro, saying she responds to questions about her past connection to Epstein after his conviction, while Jennings points out what he sees as selective criticism from the media.
They may not have done something criminal. Just the fact that they are having email exchanges does not mean that they did something
like
criminal.
Larry Summers.
Okay, but
or Stacey Plaskett.
Yes.
The fact that they're having exchanges
exactly.
with Epstein.
That may not be criminal. I do think it is wrong. And the reason I think it's wrong is because by the time that the emails that we are seeing in this trove that was released are from 2019 and 2018 and 2016. That is way after Epstein had served 13 months in that sweetheart deal in Florida, after he had served 1 year under house arrest, after he had registered as a sex offender. And so these people, a lot of them who are folks that are admired by our society, famous, rich, powerful, in very elite circles in Palm Beach and in New York, were conversing with him and communicating with him and treating him. I mean, people like Deepak Chopra. Does
your concern apply to Stacey Plaskett?
Absolutely.
It applies. Did you just hear me?
Across the board.
Did you just hear me say?
She should resign.
There you go again. There you go again, trying to make this into a Democrat.
I think it's very.
She was being programmed by him after the moment you said we all knew.
It's very hypocritical for you to call out the names of only the Democrats, but not apply the very same logic to everyone.
What Republican was he programming?
Listen, hold on. You're basically saying if you're named in these documents, I guess you're saying that they should be condemned. Anna is basically saying, let it all out. But you're the only one who's making a carve out for one person, and that's Donald Trump.
There's no evidence that he had any contact with Epstein after he excommunicated him, but we do have evidence that he was programming Democrat members of Congress. Why isn't that a big deal to you guys?
I guess the point is we just don't know.
We do know that. We absolutely know he was programming Plaskett.
On CNN, Ana Navarro says that continuing to associate with Jeffrey Epstein after his 2008 conviction was morally wrong. Scott Jennings responds by saying the criticism around Epstein is often inconsistent. He argues that some people's connections to Epstein are ignored, while others are heavily scrutinized. The narrator claims that certain political figures, like Stacey Plaskett, have had their past communications or donations linked to Epstein mentioned in older reports, but that these details don't get much attention now. At the same time, the narrator argues that Republicans are being pushed to prove they had no involvement with Epstein's actions. According to the narrator, some liberal commentators spent years dismissing concerns about Epstein, and are now acting as if the issue only recently became important. In the clip, Abby Phillip suggests another implication about Trump's ties, but Jennings challenges her and pushes back on the point.
I don't know that we know anything about Trump's involvement or lack thereof, but I do know that he is named in these documents. I do know that he is named in a way that raises questions, and that is something that is real. Does it mean that he actually did something wrong? That we don't know. But if Trump has nothing to hide, and he's totally entitled to say that, to believe that, he should be clamoring for these documents, for the full context to be released, but he's not doing that.
So you believe after 10 years of this, of him being on the public stage, that if there was something to know, we wouldn't know it by now? Look, the issue is...
I mean, you could make that argument about every single person who's implicated in these documents.
Okay.
That is not a legitimate argument.
And you just raised the key issue.
Every single person who may or may not be implicated, the argument is, if there was something to know, we would have known it. If there was something to know, Yeah, I mean, it's in the documents, and we don't know it about not just Trump, anybody.
So you just
no
raised
one.
the key issue. You use the word implicated. If someone's name appears in these documents, it doesn't necessarily mean they did anything wrong, but I'm sure that is going to lead people to say, oh, they've been implicated, and so we'll see what comes out. I have no expectations.
Scott, can I tell you, they may not.
Philip's comment about Trump having nothing to hide is an example of wording that can sound like it suggests guilt, even if no evidence is shown. The narrator argues that after many years of investigations, hearings, lawsuits, and leaked information about Trump, the idea that new hidden evidence would suddenly appear now seems unlikely. He also says that past reporting showed Trump cooperated with lawyers for Epstein's victims in 2009, removed Epstein from Mar-a-Lago years before Epstein's later arrest, and was not listed on any flight logs. According to the narrator, these points were often ignored by Trump's critics. He claims that some media outlets dismissed information that reflected poorly on Democrats while now using careful language to suggest Trump might be guilty without directly accusing him. The narrator points to CNN's recent coverage as an example of this, saying it feels exaggerated or inconsistent.
The president has not been accused of any crimes or wrongdoing as it relates to Jeffrey Epstein or these files, even with these emails being released. That's one thing that we need to make clear. But
yet,
one thing about...
It's not been charged yet. Yes.
Yeah, there's no accusations, though, of any wrongdoing so far.
This is the usual move from big media. They don't say Trump is guilty, they just hint at it. They stay careful with their words, but the goal is to make viewers think he was involved anyway. A lot of people feel like the Epstein story was ignored when it could have hurt certain politicians, but now that Trump is back in the spotlight, the coverage suddenly returns. After years of investigating, nothing has tied Trump to Epstein, so implication becomes the tool instead of proof. To some, it looks less like reporting and more like a distraction. Drag up old headlines, connect names that aren't proven connected, and hope the public fills in the blanks on their own. But what do you think? Is the renewed Epstein coverage just another way to smear Trump and protect powerful people on the left? Tell me in the comments. And if you liked the video, hit like and subscribe, it really helps the channel. This has been Thanks for watching.